Congratulations, you have a beautiful baby girl.
A girl?
Sarah, lying weak on the hospital bed, forced a hopeful smile. She had been waiting for that moment, for him to walk closer, to touch their child, to share her joy. But he didn't move. I needed a son, Michael muttered under his breath. That single sentence settled heavily in the room. Sarah felt her heart sink, but she said nothing. Instead, she held her daughter closer, as if trying to protect her from a pain she could not yet understand. As Emily grew, the distance between her and her father became impossible to ignore. She watched other children run into their father's arms, laughing freely, being lifted with joy. She learned quickly that her home was different. Daddy, she would call, her tiny feet running toward him with excitement, but Michael would barely look at her. I'm tired, he would say, or sometimes he would simply walk past her as though she wasn't there. At first, Emily didn't understand. She thought maybe she had done something wrong. She tried harder, drawing pictures, waiting by the door when he came home, hoping for even a small smile, but the smile never came. Sarah gave Emily all the love she had. She became both mother and father, comforting her daughter on the nights she cried quietly, asking questions no child should have to ask. Why doesn't Daddy like me? Sarah would hold her tightly, fighting back tears. He does, she would whisper. Even when she knew it wasn't true, years passed, and the silence in the house grew heavier. Then one day, Michael made a decision that would change everything. He came home with another woman. Her name was Linda. I deserve a son, Michael said firmly, as though that alone justified everything. Sarah felt her world collapse in that moment. The home she had tried so hard to hold together shattered before her eyes. Emily stood quietly in the corner, watching. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. But something inside her changed that day. Not long after, Linda gave birth to a baby boy. His name was Jason. For the first time in years, the house was filled with laughter, but it was not the kind that healed. It was the kind that reminded Emily of everything she never had. Michael celebrated loudly. He carried Jason proudly, showing him off to everyone who came to visit. This is my son, he would say, his voice filled with pride. Emily watched from a distance, her small hands folded tightly. She noticed everything, the way her father smiled, the way he held Jason, the way his eyes lit up. Those were the same eyes that had never once softened for her. That was the day Emily stopped trying. She stopped running toward him. She stopped calling him Daddy with excitement. She stopped hoping. Instead, she turned her focus elsewhere, on her books, her dreams, and the quiet determination growing inside her. Life, however, has a way of changing things. Years later, Michael's business began to fall apart. At first, it was small problems, delays, losses, disagreements. Then it became something bigger. Debts piled up. Trust was broken. The success he once enjoyed slowly slipped through his fingers, and as the money disappeared, so did the people around him. Linda changed. The warmth in her voice faded. I didn't sign up for this kind of life, she said one evening, her tone cold and distant. Michael tried to reason with her, but it was too late. One day, she packed her things, took Jason, and left. Just like that, the house that once felt full became painfully empty. The laughter was gone. The pride he once held on to disappeared, leaving only regret behind. For the first time in his life, Michael felt the weight of rejection. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The man who once had everything now sat alone in silence, surrounded by memories he could not escape. Then one afternoon, something unexpected happened. A car pulled up in front of the house. Michael stepped outside slowly, his body weaker than it used to be, his steps heavier. The car door opened, and a young woman stepped out. She was confident, composed, and carried herself with a quiet strength. Michael looked at her, confused. There was something familiar about her, but he couldn't place it. Then she spoke, "Hello, Dad." The word hit him like a wave. It was Emily, but she was no longer the little girl he had ignored. She had grown into someone strong, someone independent, someone he barely recognized. Michael felt his throat tighten. "Emily." He whispered. She walked closer, her expression calm but firm. "I built my life without you," she said. "I learned to stand on my own. I learned not to wait for love that never came." Tears filled Michael's eyes. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "I was wrong. I didn't see what I had." For a moment, Emily said nothing. She simply looked at him, the man who had shaped her pain, and unknowingly, her chose not to carry the pain forever.
I'm so sorry. I regret everything.
I didn't come for revenge. I came to let go.
I was so wrong.
You spent your life searching for something you thought you needed, she continued softly. But you ignored what you already had. Silence filled the space between them, but this time it felt different, not empty, not cold, just honest. Emily didn't stay because he deserved it. She stayed because she refused to let bitterness define her, and in the end, Michael finally understood a truth he had been blind to for years. The child he rejected was the one who never truly left. Never underestimate a child because of their gender. Sometimes, the love we ignore becomes the strength we need later in life. Value the people who stand by you, because one day, they may be the only ones left.
What would you have done if you were me? Tell me in the comments.